Hello once again, and welcome back to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review the theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. Oh, and this week we're reviewing, finally, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I grew up with it being Shang-Chi, but they're calling it Shang-Chi. I imagine that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, Shang-Chi is probably
We've been saying it wrong for decades, but that's us, gringo comic book lovers. But anyway, there I'm mixing all kinds of things. I'm just throwing out irresponsible cultural references. All right, let's keep going. But we've been looking forward to this movie for some time. Of course, COVID hit and everything got delayed. We finally got the Black Widow movie, and then this was supposed to follow behind it last year, and of course it follows behind Black Widow this year, and it is 100% the beginning of the next step in the MCU. Black Widow's kind of like this. Let's pause 1 second and take a look back before we step forward, even though, the stinger in it kind of did that, a little bit. This is full on. Yeah, we are fully in post snap and unsnap. And post the event, right? And it gets referenced, and we get some surprises in this movie, but it is I've been definitely looking forward to it. I am your host, Doc Rotten, and joining me tonight is Chad Hunt, who is our guest host on almost to it, every Decades of Horror podcast that we have out there, the 70s, the 80s, and the classic era.
Every single one.
And
I'm loving every minute of it.
and we couldn't do it without him, I'm telling you right now. And of course, sir, you are a comic book artist as well. And it might be interesting to hear just some of the titles you had worked on prior.
I worked on the Wolverine solo book, X-Men, the main title, the Uncanny X-Men, X-Force. Oh my gosh, I worked for Image Comics on Freak Force. Barbed Wire, remember that comic?
I do remember Barbed Wire.
Dark Horse Comics, yeah. So yes. I've been everywhere, man.
All right, now you hear, what did you do wrong? I'm kidding. No, we are absolutely thrilled to have you here, and of course, you and I have talked comic books in the past. Gosh, what has it been? 6-7 years since we've known each other through this podcast. And we have a very similar upbringing, loving comics. I think both of us, our favorite hero is the Hulk. Is that right?
The Hulk, Hulk.
Yeah. And I've been collecting the Hulk since 1976, even though it is a challenge to do so now with the state of comics. But that is another podcast. Today, we're talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So before we get into it, let me just share what we're going to do for those who may not know. We're going to get into a review. We're going to give our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler-free. Then we're going to get into the discussion about the film, and in that discussion, we will dive into spoilers. We'll try to give you a straight-up warning before we do that. And then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And before we do all that, if you are watching this review, we want to thank you for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoy this review and many others that we have on the site. And if you'd like to help us out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, or share with a friend. They'll all do us wonders. If you want to know about more, hit the bell. And of course, we want to hear your thoughts, so leave some comments down below. And for those who have been leaving comments, I want to thank you. They are awesome. Even when they call us names, I still like them. And,
I don't know about that one, but...
Well, I'll take it.
I'm just kidding.
I'll take what I can get, young man. All right, let's get into this review. And before we get into your first impressions, why don't you give us, is there any personal history you have with Shang-Chi? I mean, are you familiar with the character? Do you like the character, or were you excited about him getting
Yeah,
MCU
yeah.
treatment?
I was reading Shang-Chi. I was a big Bruce Lee fan, and I was way into like karate and kung fu and stuff like that, and the martial arts. And so I read Iron Fist, Shang-Chi, the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, the old black and white book. So yeah, I was definitely into that. And not
Sisters of
only
the Dragon.
Sisters of the Dragon, Brothers of the Tiger,
Yep.
all those guys.
Yep. And then on the other side of the fence, it would be the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not the movie.
Yeah,
It's
on
not
the Legion of Superheroes,
Yes.
dude.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that guy.
Yeah. I never saw him wax anything on or off, so I guess he's okay.
Might be. Yeah, I wasn't. I really grew into being a fan of the Master of Kung Fu because that was his comic title. I only encountered him. I never really read his title. I was a big fan of Iron Fist, so for me it was Danny Rand. But
yeah,
that might have been mostly because of association with with the Power Man, Luke Cage, right? And all that. So,
which Shang-Chi was a part of the Heroes for Hire group here.
He was
more recent comics,
yeah. At one point, I really started to get into him and like him. Of course, some of the artists on the original stuff are remarkable. Mike Zeck was, you can see early work of his, and Paul Gulacy, right?
Paul Gulacy, yeah. And Jim Starlin.
Well, Jim Starlin is credited as being one of the two creators along with Gary Frederick. So.
Yeah, he was one of the Marvel's guys that did all the cosmic stories.
Thanos, he's responsible for Thanos. Yes,
Thanos, the original Captain Marvel, Marvel, and he was responsible for all those kind of guys, and he's one of my favorite artists too.
Yeah, so. Of course, Jack Kirby introduced us to the cosmic world through Fantastic Four with Galactus and Silver Surfer, but then Jim Starlin picked up the reins and. He did quite a lot, and even more than I remember him doing. And but enough about the comics. Let's get into the movie. So, sir, because the movies are different, far different than the comics.
Yeah,
maybe more so in this case, but we'll get into a lot of that in our featured discussion. But I'm really curious, sir. What was your first impression of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
Well, usually I go into a movie like this with no expectations. I just want to see the movie. But having read the comic, I was sort of taken aback that it wasn't the character that I grew up reading in the 70s. You know, they went a different direction with it, and that's okay because it's. I was really, really, really. Watching what was going on, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but in the original comics, the villain Fu Manchu was Shang-Chi's father.
Yeah, can't do that no more.
But they can't. Copyright reasons, Marvel had to change all that around and everything.
Copyright reasons.
well, that's a whole different podcast, I think, but so they went with the Mandarin in this, and everybody that's seen the trailers kind of knows that by now. So that was a pretty cool change, I thought, and it made sense. And so I was impressed with that. The fight scenes were phenomenal. The fight scenes, it just reminded you of a very superheroic Jackie Chan movie. A lot of those. So the fight scenes were awesome. Michelle Yeoh, oh my gosh, my hero, she's in there, and the acting was very good. I thought the villain, the Mandarin was. I thought that was a great job they did with him, and to make that whole scenario with him and Shang-Chi make sense was really good. I was really impressed with it. It was different than what I was thinking I was going to see when I went in, because I'm not as familiar with Shang-Chi's more modern iterations. I am a little bit, but I know there's a few series that have come out here lately that I haven't had a chance to read yet all the way through. But it's more in line with how Shang-Chi is now in the comics,
Right.
rather than back in the 70s.
Yeah,
But
in the 70s, he was shirtless and very
well,
Bruce
he looked
Lee.
like he had, it looked like he had red pajamas on when he first started with these gold things around here,
Yes,
and
that too.
so it was.
Gold
I liked it.
pajamas.
That's what they look like. They look like big
I-
baggy pajamas.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And now he has an outfit very similar to what you see, although
Yeah.
it's of course, what they do is ramp it up for the MCU,
Mm.
and they do a good job. So before I get mine, I skipped the important part about the card. So let's do that real quick. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings from Marvel Studios 2021, available in theaters September 3rd, 2021. Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, written by Destin along with Dave Callaham and Andrew Lanham. Based on the Marvel Comics by Steve Englehart. I said the wrong name earlier. And Jim Starlin. I think I said Frederick, so that was an entirely different person. Cast includes Simu Liu, Tony Young, Aquafina, Manga Zhang, Fala Chen, Michelle Yeoh, Hua Yan, and others, along with Ben Kingsley. I gotta say Ben Kingsley. And the synopsis is Shang-Chi, the master of unarmed weaponry-based kung fu, is forced to confront his past after being drawn into the Ten Rings organization. All stuttering and stammering aside,
This was the wrong movie for you to try and read the cast off.
Which is really ironic because I love Asian films, and I love all the Asian languages. I love to listen. I love watching the movies and their original language and reading the subtitles because the language is so lyrical and beautiful to hear. And I was very happy that a good portion of this film is actually subtitled, and this is very much Marvel's Asian kung fu movie, and they did a wonderful job with it. They brought the Jackie Chan kind of street fight kind of comedic style to it. They brought there's a little, they got to have a little Bruce Lee kind of fights in there, and of course they brought the more fantasy based fight that you would see in like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, right?
Dragon, yeah.
And all films I love, and so it's even got some heavyweights in here, including Michelle Yeoh and some others. We'll get to all of that, and it is so beautifully put together. It is incredibly well directed. The cinematography is great. The fightography is fantastic. I just made up a word. I'm so sorry, everybody. But the fight choreography is amazing. It's energetic. It's for the most part. There were a couple times it got confusing, but for the most part, it's very clear and filmed in a way. It doesn't have those zip-zap cuts where you can't figure out what's going on. You see
right.
I mean, occasionally they fell into that trap, but only very occasionally. And then it has this absolutely wonderful fantasy element that isn't really in much of the trailers that I absolutely adored. And of course, Shang-Chi himself and the Mandarin, who makes fun of that they called him the Mandarin because that's basically it's a breakfast fruit. He calls it, or something like that. The Mandarin orange. But so that both of them are so well realized and portrayed on screen. And this is as for me as much an impactful MCU film as Black Panther and the Avengers and stuff. I really love this movie. I really think that it is it's unique to what we're getting and everything else. It has the superhero motifs in it, but there's so much more emotion in this than usual. And that's always the ones that really hit you, right? The ones that have a little bit more bang to them, a little bit more importance, a little bit more urgency. And this has all that. And it has comedy, it has the drama, it has the action, it has everything you can imagine. And it has a villain that you can fully understand their motivation. You know, you totally get it, and his motivation is not only makes him the villain, but also makes him the villain that isn't, is not megalomaniac, even though he is a megalomaniac because he's been around for 1,000 years. We'll get into all that. But the reason he's a bad guy at this moment is totally, by, passion of the heart. So that's so wonderful and unique. And, that conflict, that inner conflict on his side, which also, then generates conflict within the other characters, is just is electric on the screen. It really, really works. I love this film. I think everybody should see it. Every superhero fan, every Marvel fan, if you love Marvel movies, you love superhero movies. This is and if you love Asian action films, you will love this movie. It's wonderful. It's absolutely delightful.
Yeah, but there's a lot in here. There's a lot going on that, like I said, when I first went in, I was thinking the old almost grindhouse feel that the old comics had, especially with some of that dramatic artwork from Gulacy and Zek and those guys.
Oh my gosh!
This is totally different from that. It was the original comic was like an espionage comic. Lots of sneaking around and trying to destroy Fu Manchu's plots and plans and stuff. This is something totally different, but but they've rearranged things to make one good story out of it. Because there's a lot of things in there that I've and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I got images. Yeah,
let's go ahead and dive into spoilers.
Oh, okay, okay.
Just let everybody know we're going into spoilers. So go ahead.
Spoilers. Okay. What was I saying?
You were getting ready to say some of the references in it.
Okay. The city that appears only at certain times. That was Kunlun from Iron Fist. And I think that's why we're getting way into comic geekery here. But
yes.
But at the end they gave credit to Matt Fraction, who wrote some of the best Iron Fist comics about Kunlun and John and Danny Rand's time there and Iron
tournaments
Fist.
And all that. Yeah.
So that reminded me of that, and that I'm hoping that's why he got credited at the end. We had the Abomination in there,
yes,
and a lot more than we got in the teaser, the trailer, and everything. And I loved seeing him in his full webby ears, fish ears, and his trunks on. He had his trunks on too.
He did have the trunks on. Can I ask you something? I didn't notice, and I meant to look. Did he have 2 toes or 3 toes?
I didn't know. I didn't notice that
because
either.
That's always a controversy. It's a strange comics. Whenever they make toys of the Abomination, they get the toes wrong. Oh, it's the funniest thing. Because he's only supposed to have 2, right? He's supposed to have
I think he originally had 2.
Yeah.
And with 2 fingers and a thumb, I think, was it?
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
But
thank you, Gil Kane.
Yeah. But it was a blast seeing that, and it just made a good superhero movie. Now, it being not what I expected at first, when everything was said and done, I was like, I don't know if I like this movie. But I thought about it, and the more I kept thinking about it, the more I could see they need him to be an Avenger, so he's got to have some kind of superpower, and And
I love the upgrade to the rings. The wrist rings instead of the finger rings, and
the finger rings, yeah.
and they're more of a weapon, so they could do things. I really love what they've done. That is so creative and inventive.
Love that, and I loved. Let's see, even the chase scenes, like through that forest and everything.
Yes,
you got this big CGI forest, and the forest is trying to swallow the car as it's trying to head to this hidden city.
Stay in the pocket. Stay in the pocket.
And just stay in the pocket. And
what are you
it was
talking
great.
about? What pocket?
That was a pretty good scene. I like that a lot. But getting back to what you were saying before too about we get way off on that.
Oh, that's so easy with this movie.
Yeah, but I wanted to touch on that too. Where you were talking about some of the relationships in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional side is really good too. Yeah, and the Mandarin is totally a sympathetic character. I mean, you saw him show how good he could be in the flashbacks. You know, with his life at home with his wife and his children when his children were born.
Yep.
That really grounded that character and made you see what he was all about. So when the end did come around, you knew why he was doing it. It's just that he couldn't be reasoned with, you know, because he was so driven by that. And that was just a great thing. And then the whole relationship with him and the two kids as they were older too. That was just great dramatic, emotional stuff in there, as well as the superheroics.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best integration of flashbacks in the movie. I mean, because
absolutely.
Right, because you know, we see him at his absolute worst, you know, being a bad guy. He's a conqueror. He actually conquers and destroys and everything. And then we see him changed by Lee, right? So and become a changed man because she believes in him. She falls for him, believes him, and she changes him. And of course, that loss, you know, puts him into grief, and he's got to get the revenge. So he falls back to his old ways. But even then, he's still not as bad as he was, right?
Right. I didn't feel he was.
Right. I mean, he was, he's rebuilding the 10 rings at that point, but he still wasn't, the Genghis Khan kind of evil guy you hear about. So so it's very fascinating. His arc is like multidimensional throughout the entire movie. So by the time, they're having the final confrontation and they're trying to reach out to each other in different ways, it's magnetic. It's really good. And can we say, while we're on the topic, how wonderful Tony Leung is in this? He is far better than this movie ever deserves. He is so good in this movie.
He was good. I mean, Thanos, yeah, he's an evil guy. But there wasn't. Should I say Thanos? Maybe Thanos, but some comic book villains and movie villains don't have that depth of emotion that was going on here.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the depth of emotion and everything, he's on par with Thanos and Loki, because Thanos and Loki are the only ones that really get, we get to know more about them. Of course, Loki very much so, but Thanos, we got to know, we understood his motivation. That of course, I think the What If got it is funnier than anything else. But if you saw that What If episode, but the scenes that he has with Gamora when she's young, just really flesh out his character. That's what made him a great villain. And some of the other villains, of course, they don't get that opportunity and they fall a little shallow. They serve their purpose for the plot, but they don't really get in there and make, the villain that causes all the conflict. And it's a very difficult thing to do. And I think they nailed it here.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this character won't become as famous or as popular as Thanos, but he's as effective as, in this movie as either him or Loki in the early films were. And he acts with his eyes. It's so amazing to watch this guy. And of course, we got Michelle Yeoh in this too, and she's also far better than this movie. And
I don't know. It was a good. I thought it was a good script as far as.
It is. But I'm kind of joking. But I'm just saying that the caliber, they are so good. Even Hua Yang. I don't know if you recognize Hua Yang or Yun. Who plays the Master Gong Bao. He's the one that teaches.
Oh
He actually starred opposite Bruce Lee in 3 movies.
Oh wow.
and was one of the stunt coordinators when he was very.
Mm.
And do you like I'm losing track of the name of the movie now. Um, the Stephen Chow's movie. It's not the Shaolin Soccer. It's the other one.
With the
Oh, oh,
Kung Fu Hustle.
Kung Fu Hustle.
Mhm.
He's the tenant owner of Kung Fu Hustle. He's one of the man and woman that
Oh
goes.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
yeah. I remember that
So I
now.
mean, these three are simply amazing in this, and I yeah, and of course Simu Liu. I've heard different reactions to him, but I was totally into him. I thought he really embodied this role of this character, the cinematic character. You can say, does he embody the comic book character and argue
Mhm.
that, but I thought you rooted for him, you enjoyed him. He was funny, but yet he was when he broke into he's very much a Jackie Chan kind of character.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought he brought that to life so wonderfully well, and it helps with Aquafina. Aquafina and he are hilarious together.
Yeah, yeah. Personally, she annoys me
Yeah,
big time, but I liked her in this. I thought she did a pretty good job.
I
Um,
I'm liking her more and more. I know what you mean. Early on, I was like, the voice, but in here, I mean, there's a great thing about well, we should go home now, and there's just that comes back around, and it's so wonderful. We'll get to that here in a second, but I just love their banter back and forth is written so well that it illuminates where they are in their life, and just
yeah.
they're not ready to be the adults they are yet, and
Mhm.
with the interactions with their friends who are married and settling down,
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
lot. If there's a lot of people who are going to be able to relate to that,
Mhm.
and it sets them up for this wonderful journey, and you really, I don't know, I love that.
And it made a great bookend for the
Oh,
ending.
that certainly did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I loved how they received their costumes. Right.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
always the crazy thing in comics. Like suddenly they cut. In one panel they're walking around in street clothes, and the next panel they go, ba-dum, and they got this
Yeah.
costume. Where the hell they get the costume? I mean, only Spider-Man made his and Iron Man made his, but what about everybody else?
Mhm. Well, I guess the ant made them. Her Aunt Nan made those.
Yeah. Yes.
Was it out of dragon scale? Was that what it
Yeah, they were out dragons. Yeah, and
made
they
out of
were.
dragon scale?
Yeah, they made them a long time ago and had them ready for them. How they knew their size, who knows? But maybe
Yeah.
that's magic for you. That's fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was oh my god.
Yeah, they had a pretty good, funny relationship in this movie. You could, it kept it just light enough in between the heavy scenes, and it just kept things moving. It kept things interesting. The back and forth between those two,
mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi and Aquafina, Aquafina.
Yeah, and her and Xiling as well. Katie and Xiling.
Hmm. Yeah,
They had some interesting chemistry too. And then the whole thing about confusing the bad guys with the song.
oh
Singing,
yeah, yeah. Hotel
singing Hotel
California.
California, and she uses that in the movie when they're on the scaffolding. It's so
Yeah,
hilarious. It works. The guys,
that was such a great. Oh, that was such a great fight scene. It took place on the scaffolding outside of the high rise building there, and
yes,
oh my gosh, it was just it was really good, really good. It was just like a Jet Li, or not Jet Li, but
no, that works. That works too. Yes.
well, yeah, it kind of could work as Jet Li, but I was thinking Jackie Chan too, with some of the humor that was interspersed with the fighting.
Yeah, he. There's a lot of Jackie Chan influence in him, especially in the beginning. The bus scene alone. Well, the bus scene, he's wearing a jacket very much that a Jackie
Yeah,
Chan character would have
yeah,
worn early on in his career. Um, and but that bus scene, which is amazing. So there's the bus scene, right? There's the scaffolding scene. There's the okay. So let's talk about this one. The fight between Zun Yuan Menu, right? The Mandarin and Lee when they first meet
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
oh my God, that is so, it's so powerful. It's so well done. It is like dancing. And somehow in the middle of it all, it's romantic.
Yeah. But I said, if they start running on the treetops, I'm out of here.
Well, I would, yeah, they could have.
But,
They certainly could have. They were setting up the.
Yeah. It was good. That was a very, very, very good scene with those two at the beginning.
The scene when they're locked and spinning and they're looking at each other.
Yeah. And they're kind of like, yeah.
Oh my God,
like,
the eyes are locking.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was just like swept up in it. It was so good. It's that human connection in this movie that really appeals to me and brings me into it. But there is a fantasy element. There's also a huge fantasy element, but I was not expecting as much. And
lions and tigers and bears. Oh my!
Huge spoilers. What is it? Some kind of chicken pig? I don't know what the hell it is.
She called it a chicken. Yeah, chicken pig. Yes. Katie called it a chicken or a chicken pig.
It's actually there's actually I've looked it up and I didn't write it down, but there is actually a creature that is like that. But that thing is so awesome. It is a plush toy waiting to be bought. And then, like you said, there's the tigers. We get dragons. We get
the big dragon lions. They look like a cross between lions and dragons. And
they are so awesome. And like when the one
great creatures in this. Great creatures.
Yes. And of course, the dragon. And the dragon is not like American dragons. It is very much the Asian dragon, the one that you see, on the sticks a lot, right?
Yeah.
And very long, very slender, and ornate, and absolutely stunning and so well realized and so beautiful. Now the Soul Eater characters, I wasn't quite as impressed with them. They did the job and they were threatening enough.
Yeah,
it helped that they had the dragon, to the protector, right, to against it, and that made it evened out the uneven. I don't know, maybe I don't know if you feel the same way.
I was pretty impressed by it. It looked like some kind of weird H.P. Lovecraft elder god thing that comes out of this. What do they call it? The Dark Gate.
Yes.
There, and this dragon thing, octopus, whatchamacallit, breaks through this gate and comes out, and he just starts eating souls everywhere. And even the little smaller creatures that came out as heralds, I guess, to the bigger one. I thought they were really well designed, and I'll give it that. It had some very, very cool monsters in it and creatures.
Oh, when they all fought, it really was. I was just sitting there, just like awestruck by this wonderful scene. I did not know it was going to go there, and it was the best non-kaiju moment of in a while. It was quite spectacular and beautiful to watch. And then our characters were integrated really wonderfully well. And Awkwafina gets a heroic moment, which works. It works. Somehow it works.
Mm-hmm.
It should, but it works.
Oh, we should mention Trevor.
We have to mention Trevor Slattery, don't we? Right? Not Trevor
Slattery.
Not Trevor Hunt, but Trevor Slattery. He's
originally from Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, yeah.
He was just for people that don't know, and I hope this doesn't spoil Iron Man 3, but a real terrorist hired him, Trevor Slattery, to portray the Mandarin, and take credit for some bad things that happened, I guess.
Terrorist actions, yeah.
Terrorist actions. And Iron Man ended up catching him, and he was sent to jail. And then the real Mandarin from this movie broke him out of jail in a short called All Hail the King, I believe it is, or something like that. Yeah. It was one of the Marvel one-shots that used to come on the Blu-rays.
So it's on Disney. It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
right now?
yeah. So yeah, watch
it's
it.
So good.
Watch
it.
So
good.
And so the real Mandarin has kept him in the, because like a court jester almost. I think that's what she called him too.
Yes,
So
she
you're
does,
his court jester. So it was hilarious to see Ben Kingsley back in that role. And even we thought he was dead at one point, and the little chicken pig came up and sniffed him, and he's like, "I'm acting, leave me alone." And he put his head back down like he was dead, like the coward he is. It was just, he was a funny character.
Yeah, and the chicken pig did as well. It was he somehow could communicate with this chicken pig.
What was his name? Marvin or
Morris? It was Morris.
Morris, yeah,
Morris,
okay.
and Morris the chicken pig. And there's a real name for it. I'm sorry, I don't know. But the so that relationship between the two of them was redeemed that character. Totally,
it kind of did,
because he was. Oh my God! When they're driving through the trees, like you were talking about, and he's hard right, hard left, and stay in the pocket. It was so funny, and it's all because of Ben Kingsley. His timing is marvelous in this, and I enjoyed. I was not offended by him being an actor in the first in Iron Man 3.
I wasn't either.
I thought that was such great tomfoolery, and a trick, and I loved it. And the whole thing when he changed his voice from that, what you did the voice great. What was it like? Can you do the voice, the Mandarin voice?
Trevor Slattery.
Yeah,
something like that.
The Mandarin. I can't do it like, but So he was great. He was great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, I was glad to see. I was glad to see they brought him back for it. They kind of had to, because then that brings the whole 10 Rings Iron Man connection.
Yep.
From the very first Iron Man movie, it brings it all around to a circle. Kind of, it explains what the old organization is and how it came to be, which was pretty interesting, I thought.
Yeah, let's talk about Xiling, Shang-Chi's sister, real quick.
Yeah,
I love this character.
I
love how kind of underground she is, because she has a heart, but yet she's a bit ruthless, right? She's a bit for herself, and when we get to the stingers, we'll talk about more. But you when you first see her, she's out of I guess reacting to be what she thinks is abandonment.
Right.
She's basically tried to create her own empire, much like her father, and that plays into the stingers, which we need to get into. But I love that character. I loved how good she was at fighting, and of course how her origin story, the little young version of her, totally works. And what's cool is that having that made Awkwafina's character work. I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah, it did. It did.
In the end, right?
Yeah, at the end especially. But it's she did a great job, and she had. I don't know. She's just so distinctive looking. I mean, she can jump around and flip and do all these karate moves and everything, and her hair is perfect when she's. Well, she just looks like the character looks like I've got it together on the outside, but it feels like inside something's going on there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's sort of a peaceful. Her face doesn't make too many expressions and everything, but you can tell inside she's just like ready to kill somebody.
Oh my God, yes. There's a lot of eye work going on.
Yeah, it was just great. That was great.
All right, so let's talk about the stingers before we wrap things up.
Okay.
We get two stingers, mid credits and end credits, right? Before that, though, we get the very end of the film, and we get kind of a wraparound story with the conversation with the friends, and they're trying to relate this experience they just had. And when you hear it, it just sounds so damn silly, them telling normies, right? And then while they're at this restaurant, Wong shows up.
Comes in. Yeah.
He comes in and he goes, Shang-Chi? like Bueller, right? Bueller. And he takes him away. And then it ends, right? And then we get the first stinger, which is them. I suppose it looks like there's
like a hologram of the 10 Rings, and Wong and Shang-Chi and Katie are there, but there's two others there too.
There's two others. Bruce Banner is there, not Professor Hulk, but Bruce Banner still has the cast or the arm in a
From
sling
Endgame. Yeah.
from Endgame, and Captain Marvel is there, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with these rings, because they find out that as soon as Shang-Chi took the rings from his father, it sent off a signal, and they're trying to find out what, okay, where did the signal go and what are they made of? And they say it's not all these different types of metals that we're familiar with. We won't get into all that just right now, but it, they basically it's not,
it's setting up something big again.
Yeah, it's not vibranium. It's not.
Yeah.
They're not what Shatarian, so they don't know really
Yeah.
what it is. But yeah, they're setting up something big. But it's great to see the Avengers in here, and and Wong basically says your life has changed and there's no going back. And then he tells them, "You should go home and rest." And they go, "Yeah, we should go home and rest." And then it cuts to the three of them singing Hotel California.
Yeah.
And it's, oh my God. It's so hilarious. I clapped so hard with that. That was so wonderful. And that was a great way to, stick that ending, in there. And then if you stuck around for the end of the credits, we get another stinger, which if you're watching Marvel movies, you should know this. And this is with Xiling, and she's the Razor Fist, who we haven't talked much about, comes and gets her and takes her away. And we find out that instead of dismantling the 10 rings like Shang-Chi thinks, she's actually
empowering it,
reorganizing it, and
taking over.
Yep. And it pans away, and we see that instead of just male and just Asian, that it's now men and women and multicultural, and she's amped up what the 10 rings will be, and is now in charge with Razor Fist at her side. And what's the other character's name? Let's see if I can find it in here real quick, as I don't know who he is. He's not listed right away, but the character that's with her at her club.
Oh, the little bouncer guy, or the little manager dude that signs everybody into the club, or the fight club that she owned back in the city.
John Ronnie Shang is John, and he's there. And oh my God, that it's just
it's setting up something big.
It's setting up something big, because she's, like I said, or we talked about earlier, she's not necessarily as evil, full evil like her father, but she's certainly not as good as Shang-Chi. She's definitely one of those anti-hero gray characters that's probably a little bit more on the, like a Silver Sable kind of character. You know what I mean? She's
soldier for hire. So it looked like they were training like mercenaries and stuff like that. That's what it looked like.
Man, what a great
film. Good stuff. I can't wait. And it did say the 10 rings will return.
I know it didn't say Shang-Chi, it said the 10 rings.
So the 10 rings is probably going to span a whole lot of different movies, like the Infinity Stones or something like that, or whatever it's calling will be the new enemy or something.
All right. You want to talk about what it might be calling? What do you think the ring, or who do you think the rings are calling? Galactus.
I was thinking either that. I did think Galactus, but I tried not to think of it in just Shang-Chi's little world. I thought they could be calling any other alien races to come forward, wherever it came from, and maybe it's calling somebody to come back. And
well, in the comics, the rings, the actual rings that go on your hand, are have the souls of the dragon gods from another universe, which has the same universe that, or galaxy or whatever, that Fin Fang Foom is from.
Yeah, that little fella behind you.
Yes, back here.
Yeah.
And who is kind of a cult favorite in comic book fans, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, he's been around longer than most of the superheroes have.
Right. He has the
Yeah,
Jack Kirby
but
correction there.
yeah. So yeah, and he looks like a dragon, but he's actually part of an alien race of dragon-like beings. So everybody knows that Shang-Chi is associated with Fin Fang Foom from what was it, Atlas, Agents of Atlas
Yes.
comics, where Fin
Yep.
Fang Foom was one of the team. So there's a connection there. So everybody was kind of expecting him to be in this movie, and he yet may be in the series at some point. Who knows?
Now, if you consider that this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it could very easily be Kang, who Marvel is, and this was very much an Avengers kind of type of stinger at the mid credits. So with that in mind, I feel like Kang is a likely suspect. Could be the Eternals.
Could be.
There's some similarity with the gold that when Shang-Chi gets it with the Eternals and what we've seen in their movies. So it could be related to them. It could be something that we haven't seen, like Galactus from the Fantastic Four, or Celestials, or
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. There's so many things that could be. And as a comic fan, our minds go 100 miles an hour thinking
Galactus is a little too cosmic for Shang-Chi, but
it could, like I said, that could be the big. It just might not take place in Shang-Chi's world. It could affect other movies as well.
Yeah. Well, they did ramp up the 10 Rings to be strong enough to, to line up with the powerhouses in the Avengers. So he's you won't have that Hawkeye effect. I'm so sorry for Hawkeye fans. But they even address it in the movies. Okay, but you know what I mean? Because those things they can do some damage.
Yeah. That's going to be cool. It's going to be cool, whatever it is. I think I'm kind of excited again about something big happening, and we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah. Damn, Marvel does those stingers so well. These are some of the best stingers. I love these stingers. It was good. All right, let's go ahead and end this up. Let's give our final thoughts. Our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene, of course. Chad, so you are up first.
Well, my favorite scene probably doesn't have anything to do with the movie.
Oh no!
I so much enjoyed seeing the Abomination on screen again.
Yes,
and fighting Wong, and it's a little bit quicker, or a little bit more to it than what shows up in the trailers and everything. And so I just thought that was just awesome, and that I almost stood up and clapped at that. And he was fighting Wong, and while we're in spoiler territory, they're in the locker room, and Wong opens up a portal, and he goes, "Maybe you can work on the punches I taught you, or we'll practice more." And the Abomination follows Wong into the portal. I'm like, where are they going?
I know. What's up with this?
Yeah.
Now, what is that leading up to? I mean, because you can have a full podcast about what that means.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's your score, and what's your final thoughts?
I'm going to give it a 4.
4. That's solid.
A 4. I'm going to give it a 4. And my final thoughts are, I feel like, and I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding this movie and Black Widow and that, but just go in and watch the movie on its own merit, and you'll love it. I really got excited as the film progressed. I got more and more excited. Wasn't what I expected, but it was something else, which is good too, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. It felt like a return to greatness after having to wait so long for.
Oh, you're right. It was a very comfortable, warm feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this movie. I absolutely adore it. I love Asian films. I love Asian horror films, but I also love Asian action films and Asian fantasy films. And that they're a hard thing to do for the States. They've tried, and there's many of them that get close but don't really quite grasp the either the elegance of it, or the regalness of it, or the the performance of it, the presentation. Just there's different takes on it. This one is probably the closest I think has gotten to that. Those fantasy elements and the Jackie Chan elements. I really think they did a wonderful job with this, and it still feels very much American, or out of it's not quite gets into the difference there, but it's incredibly successful at it, and it has so much heart, and the actors are so good, and the script is the dialogue is wonderful, the banter is wonderful, the chemistry is wonderful. It's an uplifting film. It's a very positive film. It's an optimistic film. It's very heartfelt. You feel the stakes. You feel the drama of it. You feel the urgency of it, and the conflict of it. Even when it's just the two actors, going at it, and you don't even really take into effect, all this fantasy elements that's going around. It's just this father and son drama. It's really, really well done. Great job from the director. Really, it was able to capture a wide variety of different types of scenes, from action to comedy to drama to full on fantasy blowout elements. I think I originally told you I was going to give it a 4.5, but I'm going to bump it up after the discussion to 4.75. I've almost like, well, the way I'm talking about it should be a 5, but I really love this movie, and I can't wait to see it again. It is, it's quite a joy. Oh God, what is my favorite scene? That is so difficult to pick because there's so many great scenes. I'm going to have to go with the first fight on the bus, because it was, we haven't seen him in action yet. And they don't go all out. I mean, he's basically a Jackie Chan at this point. He's not full out superhero, right? But he's just, reveals, and, our reaction mirrors Awkwafina's reaction, or Katie's reaction at that point, like, who are you? But she has to get into it and into the action, because she's driving. You've seen the trailer. She ends up driving the bus because it gets out of control. But it's so well done, so well. I mean, we've had other similar kind of chase scenes in other movies.
Ant-Man,
or Spider-Man 2 on the train, for example. But this one is more like a Jackie Chan film.
Yeah, I was thinking that was the whole. I was thinking, man, this guy is like, could be Jackie Chan's successor, with the way he moves, even the way he moves, and I could have to do with the choreography more than anything.
I think it is.
It was just a great fight scene. I mean, and just over the top. A fight like that wouldn't go over like that on a real thing. So this is just a 3-tier bus, or 3-section bus out of control, and with Awkwafina at the wheel, while Shang-Chi fights an army of assassins. 5 assassins, including Razor Fist. Because he does the jacket thing like Jackie Chan would do, and then he also, when he plops down next to a pretty young lady, he winks at her, like Jackie Chan would be, and that was great. But man, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. There's so much more. Because the other thing you were talking about the car chase, and it was, I could have picked that. That was so much fun. It was thrilling, and it was comedic. And well, there's too much stuff to pick a favorite. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in this film.
I would, the most emotional moment for me really was that scene between Tony Leung and when the Mandarin meets
Yeah,
his wife,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
they do that, and they're fighting. I mean, she's defending the entrance to Talon, and but it's just there's this, I don't know, it's such a romantic fight, and that's
Mhm.
who would ever put those words together? But the looks on, and it's also we get a callback to it later when they're fighting, and you can see a similar reaction, not in the same way, but a similar between a father and a son in this case, and that really hit home. So this movie, go see it, you'll enjoy it. It's a shame this movie can't make $1 billion like it would have if COVID hadn't come along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think this movie would have made $1 billion.
It deserves to make that much.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Well, there you go. That's our review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Let us know down below what you thought of it.
And read the comics.
Yes, read the comics. There are tons of Easter eggs and little hints and stuff in there that we didn't get the opportunity to talk about. So check those out and leave some of those down below. Chad, sir, thank you for joining me. It's always a joy to have you on the show. Thank you.
Heck yeah. Thank you for having me. Anytime you want to talk superheroes.
Well, we're going to be able to here in the near future. We got
Yeah,
Venom.
you sent me the list.
We sent you a long ass list.
Yeah.
But we in the movies we have Venom, Spider-Man, Eternals coming out at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
We have TV shows coming out like Hawkeye and Miss Marvel,
She-Hulk.
with She-Hulk and Moon Knight coming along behind it. Really some awesome stuff. What ifs out there right now on Disney Plus, and then you got the whole DC universe out there as well. And then next year is just shoved full of both Marvel and DC and other superheroes. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it will be.
But let's get out of here, sir. Let's say good night.
Good night, everybody.